Anna sat quietly in the corner of the crowded bus, clutching her old backpack tightly against her chest. It was the same backpack she had been using for years, its strap slightly worn, its zippers not closing properly anymore. The bus shook as it rolled over a pothole, and Anna held onto the pole beside her to keep her balance. She felt exhausted, her body heavy from a long day of classes followed by a library shift where she had helped Ray shelve books for hours. She still had another job to go to that evening, working at a small cafe near her apartment. Her eyes scanned the bus. People looked tired, some were staring into their phones, some had their eyes closed pretending to nap, and a few others were lost in thought. It was a normal evening for most passengers. Anna herself wanted nothing more than to sit down, rest her legs, and maybe close her eyes for just a few minutes. She spotted an empty seat a few minutes ago, but she had been too slow. A middle-aged man had slid into it before she could even take a step. That was fine, she told herself. She was used to standing. At the next stop, the bus doors opened with a hiss, and an elderly woman climbed in slowly, holding onto the railing for support. She wore a faded but clean shawl around her shoulders and carried a small shopping bag in one hand. Her steps were careful, and her breathing seemed heavy from the effort of climbing. The woman's eyes moved around, searching for a seat, but every spot was taken. Some passengers looked away, pretending not to notice her. Others were glued to their phones, pretending not to hear her faint sigh. Anna noticed right away. Her heart squeezed a little at the sight of the old woman standing unsteadily. Anna herself was tired, her back ached from the weight of her books, and her legs wanted to give up. But she knew the old woman needed the seat far more than she did. Without a second thought, Anna shifted her backpack, stood up quickly, and smiled. "Please, you can take my seat," she said softly. The elderly woman looked surprised at first, almost unsure whether Anna was serious. "Oh dear, you don't have to," the woman whispered, her voice warm but weak. "It's okay, ma'am," Anna insisted with a gentle smile. "Please sit, it's better for you." The old woman gave a grateful nod and slowly lowered herself into the seat Anna had just given up. She placed her shopping bag on her lap and patted Anna's hand lightly as if to say thank you without words. Anna now stood in the corner again, holding the pole as the bus started moving. Her legs protested, but her heart felt lighter. She never expected anything in return for small acts of kindness like this. For her, it was simply the right thing to do. She had been raised that way. Her mother always told her that kindness costs nothing but means everything. The elderly woman looked at her from time to time with a soft smile. Anna returned the smile politely, but she soon turned her gaze to the window, lost in her own thoughts. She thought about the assignments she still had to finish, about the extra shift she had promised to cover at the cafe, and about how she would manage to pay her rent this month. Life was not easy for her, but she never complained to anyone. As the bus continued down the road, the old woman finally spoke. "You're a sweet child," she said, her voice carrying both gratitude and curiosity. Anna chuckled lightly. "I just thought you needed the seat more than me." "Not many young people think that way these days," the woman said kindly. "They are too busy with their own troubles." Anna lowered her eyes and shrugged. "I guess we all have troubles, but it doesn't mean we can't care for others." The woman looked at her thoughtfully, as if she wanted to ask more, but she didn't push. Instead, she settled into the seat comfortably, while Anna swayed slightly with the movements of the bus. The bus grew quieter as some passengers got off. Still, Anna remained standing even when a few seats opened. She felt it was fine, she would be getting off in a few stops anyway. Besides, she had learned to endure much more difficult situations than a short ride on a bus. Her mind drifted back to her life as a student. She remembered the nights she stayed awake until 2 or 3 in the morning, finishing assignments after coming home from work. She remembered skipping meals sometimes, just to save money for textbooks. She remembered the times she had almost given up on her dreams but somehow found the courage to keep going. Looking at the elderly woman, Anna thought of her own grandmother, who lived far away in a small village. She missed her terribly but could not afford to visit often. She wondered if someone was offering her grandmother kindness wherever she was. Maybe in some way, her small act today would come back around to her loved ones. The bus slowed down again at the next stop. More passengers climbed in, and the bus became crowded once more. Anna held her backpack tighter, making space for others. She was small in figure, so she didn't take up much room. The elderly woman watched her again with interest. There was something in Anna's eyes that showed both tiredness and strength. She could tell this young student had a story, one that was probably not very easy. But she admired her for staying kind despite it all. Anna didn't notice the woman's deep gaze. She was busy checking the time on her cracked phone screen, calculating how long it would take her to reach the cafe. If she was late, the manager would not be happy. The bus moved forward, and Anna stood there quietly, unaware that her simple gesture of kindness had left a mark. She didn't know that the old woman sitting comfortably in her seat was thinking about her long after she would step off the bus. And she didn't know that this act, so small and ordinary to her, was about to open a door to something extraordinary. For now, Anna was just a struggling student on a bus ride home, giving up her comfort for someone else without expecting anything in return. She believed that kindness, even when unseen, was never wasted. And so, the evening bus rolled on through the busy streets, carrying Anna toward her unknown destiny. The bus continued its journey through the busy evening traffic. The elderly woman sat comfortably in the seat Anna had given her, her small shopping bag resting gently on her lap. She kept stealing glances at Anna, who stood holding the pole near the door, her thin figure swaying with every bump of the road. Something about this young student intrigued her. She had seen many people in her life, but it was rare to meet someone who gave away their comfort without hesitation, especially when they themselves looked like they needed it. The woman decided to start a conversation. She adjusted her shawl and leaned forward slightly. "My dear, do you take this bus every day?" she asked kindly. Anna turned her head and smiled politely. "Yes, almost every day. I take it from my college to the cafe where I work." "Oh," the woman said, her eyes lighting up with curiosity. "You're studying?" "Yes, I'm in my final year," Anna replied, her voice soft but filled with quiet determination. "It's not easy, but I'm trying to finish." The woman nodded thoughtfully. She noticed the tired look on Anna's face, the way her shoulders carried both her backpack and her burdens. "And after college, you go to work?" she asked gently. Anna gave a small laugh, one that sounded more like a sigh. "Yes, I work in a cafe in the evenings. And on weekends, I also help in the library at the university. It helps me pay my rent and buy books." The old woman's heart softened even more. She knew it was not common for someone so young to carry so many responsibilities. Most students complained about exams or projects, but here was this girl, working 2 jobs while still chasing her education. "Do you live with your family?" the woman asked carefully, not wanting to intrude but curious about her life. Anna shook her head. "No, my family lives far away, in a small town. My father passed away when I was young, and my mother takes care of my grandmother there. I didn't want to add to their burden, so I moved here to study and take care of myself." The old woman's eyes glistened with sympathy. She did not say anything for a moment, simply observing Anna. She could sense the strength it took for this young student to keep going every day without giving up. Anna smiled faintly, as if to lighten the mood. "It's hard sometimes. There are days when I feel like giving up, but then I remind myself why I started. Education is the only way I can change my future. If I quit, everything I've struggled for will be wasted." The elderly woman nodded slowly. She admired Anna's courage. In her heart, she thought of her grandson, Michael. He was wealthy, successful, and lived a comfortable life. But sometimes, she worried about him. He had everything money could buy, yet she wasn't sure he understood the value of sacrifice, of struggle, or of small acts of kindness like the one this girl had just shown. "You are wise for your age," the old woman said with a gentle smile. "Many young people would complain or feel bitter, but you speak with hope." Anna lowered her gaze, a bit embarrassed by the compliment. "Maybe because I know what it feels like to have little. I don't take things for granted." The bus jerked to a stop, and new passengers climbed in, pushing and squeezing for space. Anna moved slightly to the side, making room for others, though it pressed her even tighter against the cold metal pole. She didn't mind, she was used to discomfort. The elderly woman watched carefully. She noticed Anna's shoes worn at the heels, the stitching on the sides beginning to come apart. Her clothes were clean but old, clearly washed many times. Yet, despite all this, Anna carried herself with quiet dignity. She did not look down on herself or act ashamed. She stood tall, though her body was tired. The woman's heart warmed even more. She wanted to ask more questions, but she did not want to pry too much. Still, she could not resist one more. "And what do you dream of becoming after your studies?" Anna's face lit up a little. "A teacher," she said, her eyes shining for a moment. "I want to teach children who don't have many opportunities. I want to make learning fun and meaningful for them. I believe education can change lives, just like I hope it changes mine." The old woman smiled widely now. She admired not just the girl's kindness but also her ambition. This was not a selfish dream, it was a dream to help others. For a while, silence filled the bus again. The sounds of the engine, the honking of cars outside, and the chatter of passengers mixed together. But between Anna and the old woman, a quiet bond had already formed. Anna did not think much of it. She often spoke kindly to strangers, but for the woman, this encounter felt special. As the bus neared the city center, the woman's stop grew closer. She knew her grandson, Michael, would be waiting nearby to pick her up. He often insisted on driving her, though she sometimes preferred the bus to feel connected to ordinary life. Today, she was glad she had taken the bus. She looked at Anna once more. There was something in this girl's presence that reminded her of her younger self, struggling, hopeful, and brave. She decided she wanted her grandson to meet this girl. "My dear," the woman said gently, "what is your name?" Anna looked surprised at the question but answered politely. "Anna, ma'am." The woman repeated it softly, as if to remember. "Anna, such a lovely name. I am glad we met today." Anna smiled, though she didn't know why the woman seemed so touched. "I'm glad too. You remind me of my grandmother," she said softly. The old woman's heart swelled at those words. She knew this meeting was not ordinary. Something about it felt almost destined. As the bus approached her stop, the woman stood carefully, holding onto the railing. Anna immediately reached out a hand to steady her. "Careful, ma'am," she said with genuine concern. The woman patted her hand once more. "Thank you, child. You are very kind. I hope life rewards you for your goodness." Anna simply smiled and shook her head. "I don't expect anything. Helping others is enough." The bus came to a halt, and the woman stepped off slowly. Before leaving, she turned back one last time to look at Anna, who was now standing alone near the window, lost in thought. The woman smiled knowingly. She knew Anna had no idea that her small kindness was about to ripple into something far greater. Outside, the evening air was cool. The woman spotted Michael's car waiting near the bus stop. She walked toward it, still thinking about the girl who had given up her seat. She decided she would tell her grandson everything about Anna. Anna, inside the bus, didn't notice any of this. She was already thinking about her evening shift, about wiping tables and serving coffee, about whether she had enough coins for dinner later. She thought this day was just like every other, a small act of kindness she would forget by tomorrow. But little did she know, her life had already begun to change. The bus ride ended, and Anna got off a few stops later, carrying her heavy backpack on her tired shoulders. She walked quickly toward the cafe where she worked, her shoes tapping against the pavement. She was late again, and she knew her manager wouldn't be pleased. As she hurried, her mind was still half on the old woman she had helped. She felt a little warmth in her heart remembering the gentle smile and kind words, but she brushed it aside. To her, it was just another ordinary act of kindness. Meanwhile, the elderly woman, Mrs. Evelyn, had reached her grandson's car. Michael stepped out immediately to help her. He was tall, dressed in a crisp suit, his watch shining under the evening lights. He had just come from a meeting, and his phone buzzed non-stop with calls and messages. But he put it aside for his grandmother, opening the door and making sure she was comfortable. "Long day, Grandma?" Michael asked as he fastened her seat belt. "Not too long," she replied with a small smile. "But something interesting happened today." Michael raised his eyebrows. "On the bus?" "Yes, on the bus," she said firmly, as if daring him to laugh. "I met a young girl. Her name is Anna. She gave up her seat for me when no one else did. And not just that, she's studying, working 2 jobs, and still carries so much kindness in her heart." Michael glanced at her, amused but also curious. "You meet people all the time, Grandma. What makes this girl so different?" Mrs. Evelyn shook her head. "You don't understand. There was something about her. She reminded me that the world still has goodness. And I want you to meet her." Michael chuckled softly. "Meet her? Grandma, she's just a random girl on the bus." "She is not just random," his grandmother said with conviction. "Sometimes, the people we meet by chance can leave the biggest marks on our lives. Promise me you'll meet her." Michael sighed. He respected his grandmother deeply and rarely refused her. "All right, Grandma. If it means so much to you, I'll meet her. But how? You don't even know where she lives." Mrs. Evelyn smiled knowingly. "I know she works at a cafe. She told me. I'll take you there." That night, Anna wiped tables at the cafe, trying to ignore her aching feet. The place was warm, filled with the smell of coffee and pastries. Customers came and went, some kind, some rude, but Anna served them all with patience. She didn't notice that outside, in a sleek black car, Michael and his grandmother drove past, looking for the cafe. The next day, Mrs. Evelyn insisted Michael drive her to the cafe again. She pointed to the small shop with a glowing sign. "That's the one," she said. Michael parked and followed her inside. The bell above the door rang, and Anna turned from the counter to greet them. For a moment, she froze. She recognized the old woman instantly and felt a wave of warmth. "Oh. Hello, ma'am," Anna said, surprised but happy. Mrs. Evelyn's face lit up. "Anna, my dear. I told my grandson about you, and I wanted him to meet you." Anna glanced at the tall man beside her, slightly confused. He looked polished, confident, and important, completely different from the world she lived in. She smiled politely but felt shy. "It's nice to meet you," she said softly. Michael studied her for a moment. She was nothing like the people he usually met in his business circles. Her clothes were simple, her hair tied back in a neat ponytail, her hands slightly red from constant work. Yet, her eyes shone with sincerity. He could see what his grandmother meant. "She's the one who gave up her seat for me," Mrs. Evelyn told him proudly, as if Anna had done something extraordinary. Michael smiled faintly. "That was kind of you," he said. Anna shook her head quickly. It wasn't anything special. Anyone would have done it. No, Mrs. Evelyn corrected gently. Not anyone. I was there. People looked away. But you stood up. Anna blushed slightly, embarrassed by the attention. I just thought it was the right thing to do. The cafe manager called Anna to take an order, and she excused herself politely. As she moved away, Michael continued to watch her. She moved quickly, balancing trays, wiping tables, smiling at customers despite her obvious exhaustion. Something about her dedication struck him. When she returned, Mrs. Evelyn leaned closer to Anna. My grandson runs a company in the city. He's very busy, but I told him about you because I believe he can learn something from people like you. Anna looked startled, her eyes widening slightly. She had never imagined this old woman had such a wealthy, successful grandson. She looked at Michael again with fresh eyes. He was polite but distant, as if unsure what to make of her. I don't think I have anything to teach someone like him, Anna said honestly. Mrs. Evelyn chuckled. You've already taught me something yesterday. And sometimes, lessons come from unexpected places. Michael leaned back in his chair, intrigued by the way Anna spoke. There was no flattery, no attempt to impress. She was genuine. He wasn't used to that. Most people he met either wanted something from him or tried to show off in front of him. But Anna seemed uninterested in his status. She was simply being herself. After a short conversation, Mrs. Evelyn and Michael left, but not before the grandmother squeezed Anna's hand warmly. We'll see you again, my dear. Anna smiled, unsure why this kind old woman and her wealthy grandson wanted to see her again. She thought their worlds were too far apart. She returned to her work, unaware that her life had just brushed against a new chapter. In the car, Mrs. Evelyn looked at Michael. Well? What did you think? Michael hesitated before replying. She's different. Honest. Hard-working. Not like the people I usually meet. That's why I wanted you to meet her, his grandmother said firmly. Remember, money and success mean nothing if we forget kindness. Michael looked out the window thoughtfully. For the first time in a long while, he found himself thinking about someone outside of his busy world of meetings and contracts. He thought about Anna, the struggling student who had given up her seat on a crowded bus. Anna, meanwhile, finished her shift late that night. As she walked home under the dim streetlights, she thought again about the old lady and her grandson. She didn't know why their meeting lingered in her mind, but she felt something unusual about it. She shrugged it off, telling herself she had no time for such thoughts. She had work, studies, and bills to worry about. But deep inside, she couldn't deny a quiet curiosity. And little did she know, this curiosity was about to lead her into a story she would never have imagined for herself. The next few days passed quickly for Anna. Her routine remained the same, waking up early, attending classes, rushing to her library job, and then working long evening shifts at the cafe. Life felt like a cycle of exhaustion, but she kept pushing herself forward. She did not expect to see Mrs. Evelyn or her grandson again. For her, that meeting had been a pleasant but temporary part of her life. She assumed they had returned to their comfortable world, far away from hers. But fate had other plans. One evening, while Anna was serving coffee to a couple near the window, she noticed a familiar figure walk through the cafe door. It was Michael. He wasn't wearing his formal suit this time. Instead, he was dressed casually in a plain shirt and jeans, though his confident posture still made him stand out. Anna froze for a moment, unsure if he was really there for coffee or if it was just coincidence. Michael caught her eye and smiled faintly. "Hello again, Anna," he said as he approached the counter. Anna blinked, still surprised. "Oh, hello. I didn't expect to see you here. I was in the neighborhood, Michael replied smoothly, though the truth was he had made time to come on purpose. Something about their first meeting had stayed with him, and he wanted to know more about this girl who had impressed his grandmother so much. "Would you like to order something?" Anna asked politely, slipping back into her role as a cafe worker. "Yes," Michael said, glancing at the menu briefly. "A cappuccino. And if you have a moment later, maybe you could sit and talk." Anna looked uncertain. She rarely sat with customers, especially strangers. But this wasn't exactly a stranger anymore. Still, she hesitated. "I'll see if I have a break," she said gently. Michael nodded, not pushing further. He took a seat near the corner, his eyes following her quietly as she worked. He noticed the way she moved quickly to attend to customers, the way she smiled even when she was clearly tired, and the way she carried trays with careful balance. It was clear she was used to working hard. When Anna finally got a short break, she approached his table, her hands nervously holding a glass of water. "I only have a few minutes," she said. "That's enough," Michael replied with a small smile. "I just wanted to ask, how do you manage all this? Classes, work, life. It seems like a lot for one person." Anna chuckled lightly, though there was sadness in her eyes. "It is a lot. Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe. But I remind myself why I'm doing it. I want to finish my studies. I want to build a better future. If I stop now, everything I've sacrificed will be wasted." Michael listened intently. He was not used to hearing such honesty. Most people he met tried to impress him with success or stories of ambition. But Anna spoke with raw truth, without any attempt to look strong or perfect. "Don't you ever get tired of it all?" Michael asked softly. "Of course I do," Anna admitted. "But life doesn't stop because I'm tired. Bills don't stop. Deadlines don't stop. So I keep going." Her words struck Michael deeply. He realized how different her life was from his own. He had wealth, luxury, and choices. She had none of those, yet she carried herself with strength and dignity. "I admire that," he said sincerely. Anna looked down, embarrassed. "I don't know if it's admirable. It's just survival." They spoke for a few more minutes until Anna's manager called her back. She excused herself, but Michael remained at the cafe, watching her until her shift ended. When she left later that night, he offered her a ride home. Anna refused politely at first. "Thank you, but I walk." "It's not far." "It's late," Michael insisted gently. "At least let me drive you this once." After some hesitation, Anna agreed. She gave him directions, and as they drove through the quiet streets, Michael asked more about her life. Anna shared pieces of her story: her father's passing, her mother's struggles, her decision to move to the city for education. She didn't share everything, but enough for Michael to understand the weight she carried. When they reached her small apartment building, Michael looked at the cracked walls and dim stairway light. He felt a pang of guilt for having so much when someone like Anna lived with so little. "Thank you for the ride," Anna said politely, stepping out of the car. "You're welcome," Michael replied. "Anna. I hope this isn't the last time we talk." Anna gave a small smile, unsure how to respond. She simply nodded and walked inside. That night, Michael couldn't stop thinking about her. He had met countless people in his life: business partners, investors, colleagues, but none of them had left such an impression. There was something about Anna's sincerity and resilience that pulled at him. He wanted to do something for her, but he didn't want to insult her pride or make her feel like a charity case. Over the next week, Michael visited the cafe more often. Sometimes he came with his grandmother, sometimes alone. Each time, he tried to talk to Anna, to understand her more. At first, Anna felt awkward. She didn't know why someone like him would spend time in a small cafe talking to a struggling student. But slowly, she grew comfortable. She realized he wasn't there to show off or make fun of her life. He seemed genuinely interested. One evening, while they talked, Michael asked her about her biggest challenge. Anna thought for a long time before answering. "It's not the hard work," she said finally. "I can handle that. The hardest part is when I feel invisible. When I feel like no one sees how hard I'm trying. Like I could disappear and no one would notice." Her words cut deeply into Michael's heart. He realized that in his world of wealth and power, he had often overlooked people like her: waiters, students, workers. But Anna made him see them differently. "Anna," he said softly, "you're not invisible. I see you." She smiled faintly, not realizing how much he meant those words. After she left that night, Michael sat in his car, thinking carefully. He knew then that he wanted to help her, not out of pity but out of respect. He wanted to give her the chance she deserved, the chance life had denied her. Anna, however, returned to her small apartment unaware of what was forming in Michael's heart. She thought of him as kind and perhaps curious about her life, but nothing more. For her, every day was still about survival. She didn't expect miracles, nor did she believe in sudden changes. But fate was already moving behind the scenes. The kindness she had shown on a crowded bus had already planted seeds that were about to grow into something far greater than she could imagine. A week later, Anna walked into the cafe as usual, tying her apron and preparing for another long shift. She had no idea that this day would be different from all the others. She moved through the familiar motions, wiping tables, checking cups, greeting customers, but in her heart, the same worries followed her. Rent was due soon, her textbooks were still unpaid, and she wondered if she would have enough money to cover everything this month. The bell above the cafe door rang, and Anna looked up. Mrs. Evelyn stepped inside with her grandson, Michael, just as they had done a few times before. Anna smiled warmly at the sight of them. She liked the old woman's kindness and gentle presence, and Michael had slowly become less of a stranger and more of a friend. She greeted them politely, brought water to their table, and then returned to work. After they ordered, Michael asked to speak with Anna when she had a break. She agreed, though she wondered what he wanted to say. Something about the way he looked at her told her this conversation would be important. When her break finally came, Anna sat across from them. "Is everything all right?" she asked, wiping her hands nervously on her apron. Mrs. Evelyn leaned forward, her eyes filled with warmth. "My dear, I told you before that your kindness touched me. What you did on the bus was a small act, but it showed me the goodness in your heart. And after seeing how hard you work, I can't stop thinking about you." Anna blushed slightly. It really wasn't much. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Mrs. Evelyn said firmly, her voice carrying the weight of experience. "Not anyone. You did it. You chose kindness even when you were tired yourself. That tells me everything I need to know about you." Anna lowered her gaze, unsure how to respond. She wasn't used to such praise. Michael cleared his throat and spoke gently. "Anna, my grandmother is right. You've inspired us. I know life hasn't been easy for you, but you've handled it with strength and dignity. And, we'd like to do something for you." Anna's eyes widened. "Do something? What do you mean?" Michael reached into his bag and pulled out an envelope. He placed it on the table in front of her. Anna looked at it, confused. "Open it," Mrs. Evelyn encouraged softly. With trembling hands, Anna opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and a document. She read the first lines, and her breath caught. It was a scholarship, full tuition for the rest of her studies, plus a small monthly allowance to help with living expenses. Anna stared at the paper in shock, unable to believe her eyes. This can't be real," she whispered. "It is real," Michael said with a gentle smile. "I've arranged it through my foundation. You don't need to worry about fees or books anymore. You can focus on your studies without carrying all the weight alone." Tears welled up in Anna's eyes. "But, why? Why would you do this for me? You barely know me." "Because sometimes," Mrs. Evelyn said softly, "we are meant to help the people who cross our path. You helped me without expecting anything. Now it's our turn to help you. That is how kindness works, it circles back." Anna wiped her eyes quickly, overwhelmed by emotion. "I don't know what to say. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank us," Michael said firmly. "Just promise me one thing, don't give up on your dream. Become the teacher you want to be. That will be thanks enough." Anna nodded, her voice breaking. "I promise." For the first time in a long while, she felt the heavy burden on her shoulders lift. The constant worry about money, rent, and bills had left her feeling small and invisible. But now, sitting across from two people who believed in her, she felt seen. She felt valued. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Every time she walked by their table, Mrs. Evelyn smiled at her with grandmotherly warmth, and Michael gave her a reassuring nod. When they finally left, Anna held the envelope tightly against her chest, as if it were a treasure she never wanted to let go. That night, in her small apartment, Anna read the letter again and again. She couldn't stop crying, but they were tears of joy this time. She thought of her mother and grandmother back home, how proud they would be when she told them. She thought of her father, who had always believed in education, and she whispered a quiet thank you into the night, hoping he could hear her from above. The days that followed were different. For the first time in years, Anna went to class without worrying about whether she could afford the next semester. She studied with new energy, knowing her dream was within reach. At the cafe, she still worked with the same dedication, but now her smile carried hope instead of exhaustion. Michael continued to visit from time to time, checking on her progress, sometimes bringing his grandmother along. They talked often, not just about studies but about life, dreams, and lessons. Anna found herself opening up to them more, and they became a strange but beautiful part of her life. One evening, as they walked out of the cafe together, Mrs. Evelyn placed her hand gently on Anna's shoulder. "Remember, child, it wasn't luck that brought you here. It was your kindness. Never underestimate the power of small acts." Anna smiled, her heart full. She realized then that the seat she had given up on that crowded bus was never just a seat. It was a turning point. It was proof that goodness, even when unnoticed, can lead to blessings beyond imagination. Months later, Anna stood proudly at a ceremony where she was honored as one of the recipients of the Foundation's scholarships. She looked out at the crowd, her eyes searching for two familiar faces. When she spotted Mrs. Evelyn and Michael smiling at her from the front row, her heart swelled with gratitude. She spoke into the microphone, her voice clear and steady. "I once believed I was invisible. That no one saw me, no one cared about how hard I was trying. But then, one small act of kindness changed everything. It reminded me that the world is full of connections we can't always see. To anyone struggling out there, I want to say, don't stop being kind. Don't stop believing. You never know who is watching, and you never know what doors may open." The audience applauded, but Anna's eyes remained fixed on the two people who had changed her life. She smiled, and they smiled back, proud of the young woman who had grown stronger than she even realized. And so, the story that began with a simple bus ride, a tired student, and an elderly woman needing a seat, ended with a future brighter than Anna could have ever dreamed.